start off the day giving thanks. Gratitude is the one of the highest emotions. To be thankful to wake up. I would say we start our winning or start our morning off winning, right? Waking up is our first win, and it's two things that we control. When we wake up, doesn't matter anybody else. It's our energy and our attitude. All right, so I'm giving it a minute, letting everybody get in real quick. Um, Today, I had a question come in from someone that was joining the mastermind, and they wanted to know, you know, um, what is a trader transformation? And this is a mindset call that we like to express. You know, the transformation of we're not just trading; it is a lifestyle. And so I actually put together a document called the operator's mindset. And the operator's mind, how is that different than a trader? And to actually become an operator, we have to implement a system in the market. I'm gonna share my screen real quick so I can actually look directly at the camera. All right. And so it is a complete mindset shift. Um, of course, a person gets into trading, they want to make money, they want to push buttons, and eventually, everybody wants to gain, financial freedom and independence. Um, and there's uh, a strategy involved, and so the strategy is one thing, but the identity becomes the next. So when a person says they're a trader, you know, um, it comes with a perception of what a trader does. An operator, is um, also a person who's decided, how the system is supposed to run. And so, it is a goal for each person in the mastermind to have a system. Um, and, I want to get away from the trader because we're not just making a trade, we are actually running a system. And one of the goals, right, it's not, it's to have confluence, confluence as a trader. And that means take, multiple things that are happening and still be able to operate, right? And so, we don't have just perfect days as a trader. Things outside like health, like relationships, there's other things that, happens on a daily basis. And, having a system will allow you to still run it no matter what's happening in life. And so, I was saying, hey, if I had to put together a 12-month program, right? The program would consist of mindset switch, the identity, and a process. And in that process, there's a sequence of conditions, right? And the first thing you must have to trade in after 12 months, right? You want to be able to establish a system that helps you develop confidence, that gives you more control of what's happening. All right. Controlling actually what you do. Right. We can't control what the market does. We can't control the external of what happens out, once we leave our house after we wake up. But we can have a sense of freedom, um, once we take control. And so the system comes first. Confidence develops from having a system. Then you develop a little bit more control, and that control, for each of us is to have more freedom, right? And that these are all stages that in a 12-month program, right? We will want to establish. And so right now with traders, there's two identities that we see. Um, every trader operates in one of the two psychological states, right? Whether they know it or not. And it's the identity defined by their structure of thinking, not the size of the account. So before you even take a trade, you um, you have an identity of what you think trading is. And we're trying to get from the left column to the right. And so on the right side, we call it the receiver, right? Who you arrive as, when a person enters the market, right? And they log into log in to, open a trading desk to find out what to trade. And a lot of the trades are on feelings, tips, and hopes. They take signals. They hope it goes up. They got a feeling that the market is going to go up or down, and they act when conviction is high, and they measure the day by P&L, right? And the relationship with how the market goes, they take it as a win or a personal failure, right? And after losses, a lot of times they just get quiet, right? And they look for the next strategy. They hop in. They look for the magic strategy, right? And that is a person who hops in the market and receives signals and gambles, and then eventually, you become like an operator and a provider, right? Who you leave as when you reach a level of success, and right. So logging in to verify and read pre-bill, right, was formed. So a lot of times that means that we've already established a watch list, meaning a lot of times that we already, pretty much before the bill have some type of plan or did some type of preparation, right? For us, I use the gate. Uh, we execute on a signal, right? And if I see that the gate is all the way yes, is all the way across, right? That's not a feeling. I'm acting on a system and a fact that a yes all the way across the gate says yes. Act when the gate is open. And, do we have 100% confidence on every trade? No, we just know that we're following a system and we're being an operator, we're pulling a button. And, over time, the confidence catches up in the trade. So we'll enter a little bit unsure, but we're going off the system of saying, hey, when I see this condition as an operator, I pull a trigger. And you measure your day by if you've had a process that ran clean, was I able to follow all my rules, was I able to run the system. And we look at losses as that's just a business expense. I made a comment yesterday that after every 7 trade I expect a loss. So normally if I'm trading, I take 7 trades, I know a loss is coming because that's just the numbers, right? And so that's just a data point. That's a business expense. And then you can't judge ourselves off of one trade, right? We judge ourselves off a series of 100 trades, right? Because we know that one is not enough of data, right? I can do everything right and still be a loss. And it's not that the system is broke. It's just that the system over 7 or 8 trades or over 10, over 100 to show me the real number, not just one trade. So, when something happens, negative or bad, I can talk about it. All right, negative or good, right? I can name it out loud, right? This means that the market hasn't embarrassed me that, hey, this is just part of the game, right? And so that is a provider, or operator, a person who is free, right? And not just gambling, right? And so, a household feels steady, present, right? Where, the things that happen in the market doesn't impact how I treat the family and the people around me. And so, um, confidence is developed after the execution of a system. It isn't the residue of it. So, you gain more confidence as you're operating and running a system, right? And so, in a 12-month period, right, or just in general as a operator that trades, right, there's a timeline that it takes to go from receiver to operator, to change your identity from a gambler to a consistent provider, right? And, this requires competency, right? And it's 5 things that we want to develop over a period of time. And they cannot be skipped. So discipline with no knowledge is gambling, and consistency with no discipline is luck. You have to have discipline and consistency, right? And so, what system and what how are you going to operate with system with discipline and consistency? First is having knowledge. So when you come into the mastermind, and you just come in trading months 1 through 3, right? The knowledge is going to be developed. What system and what are you going to operate? The battle map, swing master, Moneygate, etc. Understanding the market dynamics, the weekly profiles, options, economics, the AI tool, how to read the gates, why the inflow matters, why dark pool matters, expiration, map, right? You cannot execute what you cannot articulate. So you got to build the language first, and that's all part of the knowledge. So hopping on the calls, understanding what's being talked about and why, right? That's kind of like the first level is understanding the vocabulary and the engine and the things that we're talking about. Today we're talking about a new, Fed speaker for the first time. So there's uncertainty, right? If it's the first time for experienced traders, it's first time for new traders. And so we all are aware that, this is nobody really knows because it's the first time, right? And then you establish a process, right? Months 2 through 6, right? After 6 months of being inside the mastermind or just, working, right? The goal is that, I got a lot more knowledge, after the first 90 days. And now I'm starting to establish a process, right? Because the knowledge that you develop becomes a system, right? You start to say, hey, here's my routine, here's my checklist, here's how I trade a plan, right? Even if it's not all the way refined and perfect, but after 6 months, you should have developed a certain routine, a pre-bail routine, right? The checklist on the gate, a notebook, right? A written plan before you click, right? Um, right? The knowledge you can't repeat, on demand isn't the edge. So once you receive knowledge, you got to have a process that you can implement with that knowledge, right? And so establishing that process, hey, here's what I do pre-market, here's what I do after the market close, after hours, here's what I do during the trade, right? Those are establishing certain processes, right? Which becomes now a system, right? And then the discipline is to eliminate the impulsiveness, the emotional habits, right? That's month 6 through 9, right? So a trader comes in and right away, do we expect them to be, super disciplined, right? The most discipline comes after you have knowledge and process. Now you got to own the click, right? The strategy, the process, this routine, it actually can, now I have to just run it and have to be disciplined, right? I have to own the click, right? I have to be able to talk about the failures and the wins, right? I have to sit through the boring day, right? Because if I'm watching the process with the knowledge that I have and I don't see, my setup, I don't see the gate all the way across, I see a mixed market everywhere, right? At that point, I got to sit through the boring day. I got to honor the stop. We're saying that, hey, we're not going to trade until after the FOMC or after the Fed speak, right? That's actually discipline, right? And so restraint is not the absence of action. It's the highest form of action a trader takes all day, right? Restraint is the highest form of action a trader takes all day. So, I was reading one of the comments and one of the traders, he's experienced, he was in Mike's room. He said, oh, I'm gonna just leave for the day. So I won't trade. Right. And it was like, oh man, you can trade. It's like, to actually implement discipline, it was actually a procedure to just say, I'm gonna walk away and go keep myself busy. So I won't trade. Right. And that even requires that's restraint. Right. And that is a action that a trader takes. And that is developed, within your first year of trading, right? Consistency is the identical, repeatable process on good days, boring days, and losing days. And so sometimes this consistency, the same process every day. The reason why I do these mindset calls, the reason why we have, for the last 70 years, we've had Sunday night calls, we've had Monday calls, Tuesday and Wednesday, right? The consistency is, ran 100 times and repeatable. And it is repeatable beats impressive every time. If I can just repeat the same system, if I can take the same trade up day in and day out over years, right? That is beating, any impressive gain that I show up consistently. Same process every day, right? And then once I had that process and consistency, right? Every trader here, every operator, every person in the mastermind, I don't care if you've been in for 1 year or 8 years or 20 years, we always have continuous improvement, right? The system is continuously getting sharpened forever, right? There's never a time a trader is done, right? Not done learning, not done adapting, right? And that is the challenge of trading, is that we're always looking for continuous improvement. And so we review our performance. We constantly reviewing and identifying weaknesses, and we constantly refine it over time, right? And so a weekly operator review, the monthly risk audit, the year-end audit, right? It never closes, right? And that's the difference between a trader who arrived and an operator who keeps arriving, right? The operator is going to continue to operate these core competency and keep going up the same ladder, keep refining the process, discipline, consistency, right? And what's not on the ladder was a dollar figure, right? In the mastermind, we also say, hey, you don't make it once you reach a certain amount, right? You reach it, you make it when you're managing the outcome, right? When the process is developed and it's not based on financial outcome, it's based on, hey, do you have a system that you can run that matter, now it becomes a lifestyle, right? And the money is, the money happens. So, right, this is the kind of the things that we're developing inside this mastermind, or even in the chat as a trader operator, right? This is the map of exactly what we have to work on each month. So, you don't, it's Monday after Monday is when you see the progress, right? And, the foundation, if I had to do 12 months, right? The first months 1 through 3 is identity and pre-build routine, right? That is build a discipline before you ever load the strategy. And so the identity is you start measuring your success if you ran a process. So as soon as I end this call, I go through my pre-morning process, my pre-morning routine, right? And, I have a watch list I'm developing. I have a date, and I have things I've already put on my watch list the night before. So if I just click on a chart and I go through my watch list, I should already have the night before. I will plan out Wednesday. And so far I have SoFi, CUSB, Roblox, CoreWeave. I have a few trades from last night that I researched the night before that goes on my watch list for Wednesday, right? And I trade momentum, so of course I'm gonna have a bigger watch list than someone that trades certain levels every day. But you profile your real schedule and pick your lane, right? So in the first 3 months, a person is picking what lane, right? And your risk management rules has to be established, right? You have a count of a 10,000 or 100,000 or 1,000. You say, hey, my biggest trade is gonna be 500, or my biggest trade is gonna be 5,000, right? And you want to be able to run 20 consecutive trading days with the full pre-market pre-bill routine, right? You don't have to run, you don't even have to trade. But if I can just show up for 20 consecutive trading days, which is a full month, and say, hey, here's my routine in the morning, right? Month 2 is, reading the 2 gates. If you're using the Moneygate, or the Moneygate, or if you're using, any one of the strategies inside the mastermind, right? Being able to read, and focus on your setups outside of social media, right? Stop hunting for signals and setups and other strategies, and read the dashboard that's in front of you, right? So when I actually do my pre-market routine, I don't go look in social media, whatever. I use the screeners, I use information. I use a process every time that is outside of a personal opinion, right? And so, right, and what I'm looking for at pre-market is what direction is the market, which trades, what sectors are moving, right? Relative volume, VWAP. We have ticks in this morning. Was it a bias to the downside or to the upside, right? And this is just it's just a drill, right? Of you know, is the gates open pre-market? Do I got anything that says yes all the way across early in the morning before the market even opened, right? And so I'm matching the direction and the grade of certain trades before the market is open. 1-3, first reps, process over profit, right? I don't have to wait to feel confident to take a trade, right? I'm actually, my confidence will catch up. But if I have a system that says, hey, I want to enter, if I see the double FEG in the morning and I see the momentum and I have a brand new catalyst, right? I'm gonna click before I understand, all the details, because that's one of my conditions and one of the process over the morning. So if you can document 30 plus trades at minimum size with a clean process, right? This is how you get that over 100 trades. I'm successful out of 70 out of 100 or 80 out of 100, right? Because over a certain period of time, you did the same trade 30 times or 100 times, right? And now you have, predictable, score based on your system, right? So I know if I take 7 trades, you know, I've done it over 100 trades, and over 100 trades I've lost at the 7th trade multiple times, or et cetera. It's just if I take 8 positions, I know I'm gonna lose one, right? But I've been successful with 7 out of 8, or 6 out of 7. So you deliberate when you built the rules. The cliche is honors them. So once you have your rules, you can execute it, right? And this happens, month 4 through 6. Just saying that if I had a 12-month program, right? If I get one red light, that's no trade, right? But if I have all green lights, I can go, right? And this is just me going through a operator system that at each stage, what level and what should I be mastering, right? Month 5, I say sector rotation and squeeze confluence, right? Some traders come in, they think they're going to master the entire trading market or become an operator overnight, right? And some of it takes time. When I say 20 trades, or I say over a period of 100 trades, right? It's no way you can become a master or operator in the first 30 days, because there's no way you're going to have that data, right? Sector rotation and squeeze confluence. Yesterday I took CoreWeave because there was a sector rotation and also CoreWeave with 20% short, right? And they're going into the NASDAQ. So, being able to identify a sector rotation and squeeze, right? SoFi, has shorts and they're in a current squeeze. So SoFi was one of the trades I identified last night that kind of meets that criteria. All right. All right. So read the sector first, multiple names, that strong inflow, right? And it wasn't just SoFi, it was C, it was Affirm, right? They had a couple of other trades in the financial side that we're starting to see sector rotation and squeeze, right? And this is all real time that I'm talking, right? And so NWE call one confirmed sector rotation per week for 4 weeks, right? Long before it is confirmed on a call. So are you able to identify the sectors that things are moving to, right, before the market is open, right? And that is something that, we want traders to be able to do, right? Time frame and expiration, right? You stop buying the wrong contract. You have a swing trader come in and they're buying weeklies. Well, that's the wrong contract for your thesis. If you say that, hey, this is going to go up over a period of time and you buying weekly contracts, right? The expiration is the trade plan, not that the contract was cheap. Right? Somebody was like, oh man, well, yeah, I know I was supposed to buy the 6 week out contract, but those are 1,200, and the weeklies was 300, right? And it's like, well, you bought the weekly out of the money, right, on a something that you're supposed to buy for 6 weeks out. So that actually becomes time frame and expiration as part of the profit ladder, right? And you honor the profit ladder on 10 consecutive trades without manually overriding the target out of greed or fear, right? If sometimes I get greedy and I'll take a weekly because I plan to just be in it for the day, um, and then I hold it overnight, right? And that is, um, messing up the profit ladder, right? Build your own pre-market stack, the operator, right? Initially, you come in, and if I give out a signal, if I say, hey, I'm looking at SoFi, et cetera, somebody will take that and put it on their watch list. But eventually, you become independent where you build out your own pre-market stack, right? And you stop consuming just somebody else's intelligence. You start generating your own, right? And now you have your own stack and process that you're running. And this is part of the process in the mastermind where, I work with someone and help them start developing what reports they're going to run to customize it, right? And they start building their own pre-market watch list, right? They start having their own after hour routine, right? And then they start building their own conviction. So that doesn't happen on month one, that happens month 7 through 9, or, it could happen sooner, but just in general, right? After 6 or 7 months, you start running, reports, and you start adding them to the mastermind or WhatsApp chat, right? So this way, when you arrive to a call or you arrive to the market, you're already kind of ready, right? You use the mastermind to verify and confirm, right? Not just only to receive, right? And so, right, when you run your full market stack solo for 15 sessions and ride with a preformed defensible read every time, right? You should be able to defend your positions of how did I come to the pre-market. Then you own the clock, right? You independent of the chat and the live call, you can defend it in writing, right? You can own your click. My bad. So, this still happens, and this is in month 8. Month 9, you protecting the week, right? You know that if I make money in the first Monday and Tuesday, and I've already made my goal for the week, right? Profit protection is the only reason next Monday exists, right? If I can't protect my profits, I can't get to next Monday. So 2 consecutive months with no weekly drawdown caused by trading past a hit target. Protection is now the reflex, and that is what successful traders and operators, they're trying to protect profits and grow their account. All right. And so 112, self-sufficient operator, right? The operator doesn't need it to continue the author of the position of their account, right? And they can run a self-audit month at full size, clean process, second lane, meaning that they know their system and they can defend it out loud. This is why they do what they do, right? And so the momentum operator's mindset, right? I trade momentum. I'm looking for directional moves on fresh catalysts, not range bound theta. So, if I'm thinking that the market is going to be range bound right now, I know that it's not built for my strategy, right? The operator finds momentum through a repeatable read. So I'm going to go look through daily catalysts. I'm going to look through what's moving. And also I'm going to have caution. And I also know that restraint is a action that a trader takes. So I'm not going to move into a trade unless I have true momentum. All right. So on that note, man, I want to give everybody the morning back because we are getting prepared. 6:30, 6 o'clock exactly is when I like to stop so I can do my process. And hopefully this just took you through a coaching mindset and a trader's operator of what I should be doing on a monthly basis or learning, right? And in the mastermind, we're gaining these skills and, putting them together. And so the mindset that it doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen, over a period of time. You hit these different levels and you go through these different experiences as a operator in the market, not just a, hope and a gambler. So you become not just a receiver, you start to develop into an operator. On that note, hey, I appreciate you guys. I see you guys in the chat. See you guys on the call. We're gonna have a eventful Wednesday. It's the first time in history we had a new FMOC, right? We had this guy Walsh, uh, and we never had him before, so we don't know what to expect. Truly. On that note, I see you guys on the inside, and let's all work on success. All right, we all shooting for it. All right, peace out continuously.